AI art. Is it art? The answer is no. AI is so far, I've been experimenting. Every now and then there's an iteration of like the AI image generators, and I'll mess with them and just to see what they're up to, what everyone's up to. And this stuff is blowing up right now where pretty much everybody on Twitter is you're just being bombarded with these images that people are coming up with, and it's mostly from the Bing Dall-E 3 is the new one, I guess. Is the one I was just messing with yesterday, and I I just kind of mess with it to see where it's at. I'm basically against it in the sense that and first off, to be art, it has to be something has to be human. So you can't you wouldn't look at like the sunrise and you could say that's art, but it's not really art. It's the sunrise or a canyon, the Grand Canyon or something. You could say this is God's handiwork or something. Those are good um, things to say, but it's not art because art is a human thing. If something is created just by accident, if like I don't know, a garbage truck runs over something and then the product of it looks interesting, it doesn't mean it's art. You know, to some extent, once a human can put a spin on this very quickly and it can be art, I'll agree. Um, in that sense, you might say, well, why not AI? Because you give it a prompt, you tell it what to do. But these prompts don't really, they're not completely like it doesn't necessarily listen to the exact prompt. And for the most part, I think a lot of the AI that you see that looks really good, it's probably people giving very simple prompts because most people are not artists, especially the people excited about the stuff are maybe not, they're not an artist, but they've never really thought about themselves. But now they are because you can type something and they're like, whoa, look what I made. But like, it's because they don't recognize any kind of the creative decisions that go into it. They're not like the whole style of things is just right. I mean, you could hit just surprise me on the thing, and just completely random image will come out, or but then, and if you make it more complex, it's not. I was messing with this for a while, and you can't really guide it in. Like you can't like dial these things down because to me, I mean, any AI image, I think, is just made to look. You're made to like. You're supposed to look at it for maybe like a second and move on. You don't. There's no reason to study all the details that you would from like a human painting or something, where you would look at all the detail of it and consider everything the artist did, or so or all these things. The is not you're if you look at that, like once you start looking into this stuff, you're like, oh, okay, it gets kind of weird and messed up because the detail really isn't there. And I mean, it can be, but it's nothing worth exploring. It's kind of messed up, and it, if you try to like give it super detailed instructions, it will. There are some that it'll get, and then some it'll reject, and then some it'll get confused by. But all told, it's more like commissioning an artist to do something for you, and that's why you might say this is why this is like genuinely AI or something, because because it's making all these creative decisions or something, even if they're coming from some digital like tree, the you know the it's not like, I mean, if you commission an artist, you say, hey, I want you to make this, you know, they might run with it and do different things or do it a certain way, or they might get confused by what you say. But actually, they're gonna get a lot less confused than Dall-E 3 or other AI. Like, this is probably the best one I really messed with. But although, well, I'll get into some other things. I think it might be the most advanced I've come across, and it could do things better than other things. Because I mess with this stuff. I don't employ this stuff in like anything I do, but I like to experiment with things or see what other people are doing. So that's what I was messing with the stuff. But you wouldn't say like you if you commission an artist to do something, like you would it doesn't mean you did it. It means he did it, you know. I think that is why maybe you could say this is a little more AI than like a Chat GPT thing, which is like a it's just like a glorified search engine. And actually it's kind of like a crummy search engine because it'll give you like singular responses it's confident in that are often wrong. And I've messed with that a lot, and I think it's so bogus. Like I didn't find any intelligence behind it. It didn't seem to me like there's any intelligence behind it. It's just like a search engine or something, you know, that kind of seems like it's in a conversation, but that it's not AI. There's plenty of stuff that can do that without being considered AI. So I think a lot of this is really just a novelty that's tricking people who are kind of dumb. Some of it is useful for sure. Like there is use to this stuff, and definitely there's a reason why a lot of people are excited. Some of this stuff is funny, and I've seen some AI stuff that definitely made me laugh, and anything that makes you laugh or is funny is good in a way, you know. But it doesn't become like this AI. It's not like an artistic thing. This is all ephemeral and meant to be tossed in the trash. I mean, however many I generated like hundreds of different images, and it would make like four at a time, and each time like, and they would be paintings that would take someone like a long time to do, but you're just tossing them out. Like it's just completely ephemeral, and they're all junk. You know, you forget about it immediately. But you might figure, well, that's why it's you know, that's why you don't like it, because you know, now other people can make this stuff so easy that you're resentful or something, and that, you know, because you can just effortlessly make this stuff. So now artists are redundant. It's not true. That's, I mean, that's a wicked. This isn't necessarily the case. I mean, like, and there are things too that like it's just not doing it can't do like what you want it to do. And actually there's how many things it'll tell you it won't do, which is a lot of things, you know. Where if you just put your pen to paper or something, you can do whatever you want, you know, within your ability. I think that is better. I mean, like, the human element is where things are being elevated from. This stuff is like, it reminds me of like rap music or something, where it's like all samples, and it's just like all sampling, like how like you could listen to like some like Dr. Dre's stuff or something, and then you listen to like what he sampled, and it's like the whole, like it's like the whole song. It's like all the music, and they're just like rapping over it, and then you know, you, people argue for this, but it's kind of cheap. And I mean, come on, just make your own stuff. Like that's what personally and you could have different opinions on this. This is my opinion on AI. But I like art that people make. I like when I listen to music, I like to hear instruments being played. I mean, I went to a Ministry concert. It was like the last tour that Paul Barker was on, and it was like the worst concert I ever went to. Like this is a long time ago, but I mean, they were playing like backing tracks and stuff, or like they would play like samples of even like singing, and like I mean, there would be parts where like it would be like Al Jorgensen would like do the verse, and then for like the chorus would be like screaming or something, and then he would just let that play, and he'd be like smoking a cigarette, like who wants to go to see live music, and that's you're dealing with, you know, where they just play the I don't know. I don't even like I don't know. You can get really kind of into this, but some of this is my preference. Like, I mean, you could say, well, maybe AI could be useful for artists. Let's say you could make graphics that would you would spend a lot of time with before, and now you could quickly make these, utilize these, and you could use this for other stuff that is more your great. I mean, sure, that seems like a perfectly good use, and probably maybe you know, maybe everyone will be doing that in the future, and it'll be fine. I'm just saying where this stuff is now is you come up with, because I was like coming up with like the shortest uh prompts, and I would do like I did like Moscow destroyed, and then it gave like kind of like a cool looking image, but it was like the style of it, the colors and everything in it, I didn't like decide on. I just said make me and it made like 4 images, and then I typed Chicago destroyed, and then and then it came up with like a different style. It came up with and these were very like these images looked more accomplished than others. Where if I'd get more detailed in the response, they'd get kind of messed up, and a lot of times it would just toss out anything that you would try to tell it. Like I was trying to get like a guy. I was trying to like a certain kind of guy. Um, and I was trying to tell it like not to put a beard on this guy, you know, because it kept on putting a beard on the guy. It said he was like an old guy, but they would put a beard on it automatically. Then I said, no, he doesn't have a beard. I put that in the prompt. He still has it. No, and it would screw up so much stuff. And you could do the same prompt and get totally different stuff, especially if it's kind of a complex prompt. Like I was writing like whole paragraphs, and you could say, "Hey, I want this a certain angle of the shot. I want this camera here." You could say different styles of art. You could say like make it look like a manga thing, or make it look like a whip-de-woo, photograph, color photograph or something. And then give it the lighting of like the golden hour or something. And a lot of times it will listen, but then it'll get more messed up. And then there's however much stuff, there's all these rules to it, which I looked over carefully, and you cannot, I mean, who knows what their actual criteria is? This stuff is so broad. And then you type in any number, like I saw the big thing on Twitter, and or something people were going on about was like oh, you can't type in Donald Trump for this, or because but you can't really type in tons of people's names, and which is already kind of like, why not? Like, but you can't do tons of different stuff. It'll tell you that the prompt is the content in the prompt is bad, and then if you try to come up with workarounds, sometimes you could work around the prompt and it'll give you something still if you kind of describe things in a certain way, what you want, without saying it a certain way. Then it'll oh the oh it'll give it to, here's what I was saying. Sorry. It'll block the prompt sometimes, but sometimes then if you make a workaround around the prompt, it'll block it again. So it takes like a few seconds for it to generate. Sometimes right off the bat it's like no, but then sometimes you wait a minute and then it says, hey, there was unsafe images it generated that we're not going to show you. You know, is blocked. So it's like it can detect the prompt if there's something bad it's not going to take, and then also maybe it'll generate something, and then it can look at it and be like, no, we shouldn't have done that. But it's not always like you're even doing that too, because tons of stuff you would come up with stuff that you would think would be completely benign, and then it's like blocking for different reasons, and it'll keep on coming up. Oh, there's unsafe stuff. So then you're like whittling out what it'll let you do, and some of it seems so bizarre. Like I was noticing a lot of it, like you could type like certain things are fine for like if you say color photo, totally fine. Like it'll make it every time. And then if you say it's a make it like a manga or like some kind of comic book style, like some no, block it every time. And I think it's basically like maybe this is inappropriate for like maybe children or something. And how dumb is that? Because I mean it's very strict. And same thing, like sometimes you just can't figure it out. Like I would like describe something if you introduce like I was doing a prompt where I was introducing women, and each time it would say no, but without it would be fine. Like and I like, and it wasn't any like offensive or crazy thing, but it won't do it. And there's however much stuff that like you can't do, like just historically it's not going to do for you. I'd imagine it probably won't make a swastika, which immediately I'd say that's inferior to a pencil, because a person can do that. Like if you want to make a picture of like Adolf Hitler, that doesn't make you a national socialist or like mean you want to kill 6 million Jews, or that it's not necessarily offensive, because however many Hollywood movies come up with the same stuff, but they're not really empowering you that in that way. They're actually trying to like work you into certain parameters, and I think it's like a conditioning. I found it very frustrating, like, and I think this stuff is gonna condition people because you're doing the prompt and you have to figure out what is acceptable as you're doing the stuff. And who's really interested in that? Like, I just think it's way better if you make a picture or something, even though it takes maybe longer in doing this or that, or if you do it the way you want it to be. The AI just does it the way it wants to be. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes it would just be completely confused. And I would try to confuse it in a way. Like, I just kept on saying, like, just stupid stuff. Like, because after first I was trying to make, like, stuff kind of involved in, like, other projects I was working on. So I'm working on this one project, and I was thinking not about doing AI for it, but if I were, just because I'm experimenting with this and these are the ideas I had in my head. So let's see what it would do. Like if I would be a person who likes to use AI, maybe this is what my project would look like, and it was completely useless. Like it wouldn't give me really like anything. And there's so much stuff like World War II stuff, good luck. Like you have to really kind of make workarounds or something. And then sometimes like you'll even get suspended. Like I was trying to make scenes of which I thought would be fairly of like an escape from a concentration camp. So and like a realistic looking nothing like of a real escape, You're trying to describe this, and I mean I was thinking like because if you like escape from like a death camp or something, that would be like that'd be like the best feeling I'd imagine. But so I'm like, oh, maybe this would be like a dope image or something. Who would have a problem with that? Well, 9 out of 10 times Dall-E 3 does, and I even got suspended for using the word concentration camp. I imagine that's why I got suspended, because when I tried to use the actual word, like it was like suspended. Where I think I actually did use it before, but it just is reading too much into the context. So this thing is like you're trying to make art, and it's just like the worst, most militant, like libtard Antifa public school teacher, just nagging Biddy is just like all like has a problem with everything, and that you're gonna make art like that, like is I mean, forget it. The stuff all kind of, I think it all kind of looks the same too. I never get confused by this stuff. I always there's always stuff to it where I mean, if you part of it is like I'm lucky enough to have looked at like a hip load of uh, paintings and things already, either in museums or in print and what you know. So I'm familiar with a great deal of art already, so I don't get too confused. Like I know what art should look like, or I have an idea of what maybe a mountain will look like, even if a painter paints it. Whereas the AI will be all screwed up, or you know, there'll be all these weird things to it where it just looks a bit inhuman. So I mean, I think where this will get really good though, and I think it all kind of this stuff. A lot of it has a look of like the sci-fi fantasy. There's just like this sheen across. You can just see it, and it's something too like the digital aspect of it. I mean, I'm someone who thinks that I do like with music. I do kind of like all the arguments around like tone woods and things, and I like having tubes in my amps. I'm not too. I think that the digital modelers are different, even though maybe if you played guitar through a digital modeler, you might be able to trick me into saying it's a tube amp. But I could tell if I played it myself. You know what I mean? Like from the artist perspective, you can tell. And even I just think there's just things to it that maybe you can't detect. Where they're like, for instance, with drum machine music, a drum machine can play drums better than a human can. It can play a perfect rhythm, you know, just forever. Where a human, it's always going to be a little bit messed up. But they've done like A/B tests where you know you listen to the beat with the drum machine, and then you listen. You know, you have no idea who's playing it, but which one is more pleasing to you. And actually, people typically do find the human drummer more pleasing at like a meaningful rate, where there's just something to the almost indetectable, you know, the slight imperfections that gives it the humanness to it, where people like it. And things like that are just kind of, they make the world a little more enchanted and like just a magical place where this stuff is just the opposite. It's more disenchanting, and even what it's doing to art and just sampling everything. I mean, I could go on about this. You'd be like, oh, you have a problem with it. So, but I think these are all fair enough. I think when people gripe about the copyright concerns as well, is 100% correct. I mean, and in terms of like copyright law, if you take someone else's stuff and there's a little bit of it that you take, you know, if you're infringing, and if you're infringing, you don't own it at all. You know, but these things are just infringing on everything, because it's just like Googling stuff, and I mean, it can't. It's not like you can go out and read a book or something or do research outside that. It's just going across the internet and coming. You can say, well, that's a very wide thing, but there's tons of stuff that it can't pick up. Like if you tell it different places, like I was trying to tell it to create scenes along the Adriatic coast and stuff, and it couldn't really it could not do it. It'd be all jacked up. It would look not, you know, because it's not even Googling things that hard, and it's not all that learned. But the biggest thing though, it's not human, and there's so much of a randomness to it, where it cannot be. For what it's worth, you can say, who cares if it's fun? These are good images. that we like to play with and stuff like that. And you know, what else do people say? Oh, the only artists that will be affected are the bad ones. So if you're a good artist, you'll still you'll be fine. You won't be affected. If you're a bad artist, then you know then you'll not necessarily. And here's the thing: everyone has to look at this crap, and then there's already people just they're being confused. They're just you know they see this stuff and then they start thinking everything's AI. You know, now you introduce a new image that people maybe never saw. You know, they think maybe this is a AI thing or something. Like I don't know. It's maybe like a JPEG of like a helicopter. You know, oh, is this an AI? They don't know. And there's however much. I don't know. Even beyond getting into where it's just going to screw everybody up to where they can't tell reality from this or that, which they already can't. There's very few people who have a very firm grip on reality now, especially if they go on the internet. People get kind of crazy on the, you know, like all the weird stuff. You know? But now you can just be messed with. Everyone knows this much. But I think that's going to be a problem in itself. But then people like all this crap. Like the crappiest, I mean, like pop music and stuff hasn't sounded very human for a long time because it's all made by producers. It's not made by, say, musicians. It's made on the computer. I don't necessarily have a huge, like there is some like techno music and stuff I'm really into, but most of it I'm not. And it just doesn't have like something like Aphex Twin, I think, is like has a ton of personality to it. You could tell there's like a guy who made this. It's very like human, even if it's made by computers and machines and stuff. You know, there's some that's something like really cool. I've seen him in concert as well a long time ago, and he didn't play any song I've ever like. He didn't play like the songs from his albums. It was like it was actually a lot of sampling and stuff. It was like a DJ kind of thing, but it was like, oh, okay, you know, so this is like what he would do, you know, if you know, this is what he'd do in live because he doesn't want to just hit play on his MP3 at the concert, and everyone would be a little disappointed. No one wants to hear it. People want to see the human doing something, you know, like I like artists themselves, and that's how I've always navigated different art. Like before there was the internet, when I was a little kid in like this is like 1995 or something, like when I was in like I would look at the TV guides and stuff like that, what I would try to do to like find movies and stuff would just be like to look at the same people, you know. If a director made a movie I would want to that I liked, I would want to see other movies by that director. You know, I like the human that was involved in it, and eventually you're like you start to follow people's careers and things, and I think it's appropriate to get into artists and people that you like, you know, just as much as like the product, the art, you know, because it's the same thing, you know. Otherwise, you could make the argument, well, and I mean, you could make this argument if this is your thing, but you could say, well, I only care about the finished product. I'm the audience, so I don't care, and all I care, you know, if it looks good. So if an AI thing makes it, or if it makes no difference to me, you know, I think that's going to be a lot of people's opinions, and the AI stuff will do it, I mean, it probably will do it for them because these aren't, they're not art critics. They don't care, you know, they don't care that much. They want something that looks kind of exciting for 2 seconds. You know, they don't want to study a painting or something, and is maybe funny or entertaining or something. So for them, yeah. And yeah, I guess you'd say, yeah, that will clear out maybe all the artists that we're basically making junk and pap and all this stuff, because most art is crap anyway. Like most art is, it's made for commercial purposes to make money, to appeal to mass audiences, and is basically just junk. I think I think that this thing is going to make certain kinds of art actually redundant and kind of like I'm losing a taste for any kind of sci-fi and fantasy, because it just seems like the AI stuff will move into those realms and take them over. Like, because it's not, it could just make up like, goofy. If you look at like the AI stuff, it really messes up where you try to make things like realistic or to have certain. If you care about like details and things, like you try to make like people from World War II, you just notice all these weapons don't make sense, or the uniforms make no sense, and so this is completely useless. Of course, you say, well, it'll get this done. Like the next iteration of this will get this. Maybe not. I'm not completely convinced of. I mean, yeah, it's radically gotten to this point, but how at a certain point, how much? Because, like I say, the more complex of a prompt, the crummier the work. It just starts getting all distorted. People's faces start twisting up. If you do like a 2-word prompt, you get a kind of you get stuff that makes a little bit more sense. But it's because it's the computer is making all the creative decisions. It's not the person. You didn't make art, because you're a digital AI artist or something. This is no good. I think maybe where this will go, it is maybe people will get more of a taste for authenticity and sincerity, and maybe this could be a good thing for certain artists, for that kind of artist, because maybe people will like things that are more DIY and low fidelity and this or that, and a little bit more rough than the really polished stuff. Because once you figure out that a computer can do that, why bother with the polish on it? You'll be polishing it to make it look like it's the AI stuff. But the really like polished fantasy sci-fi stuff, I think you'll just be thinking like AI did this, or this is made by like some dumb computer or something. And I think people will lose interest. Even, and yeah, different, like with like electronic music, you say, well, people introduced randomness to this to make it sound more human, to make it sound more, so the random, but the AI generator is like almost completely, it's more random than not, because you can't control it. If you could say if you could really dial it in and be like, do the this and it's just gonna be like, okay, it'll then that would be a kind of a different story. You can make a more of an argument once it can do that. As of now, it'll get, if you make really complex stuff, first off, you're most likely to get just blocked right off the bat. There's gonna be something in it that it takes offense to, and you're gonna have to try to like whittle things down or make things sound a certain way, which is just gonna get more confusing. But for that, I mean, to me, it's like, man, I like it's like when you say like, oh, it's like the difference between having a real like baby or having like a surrogate do like IVF or something, like Elon Musk or something. Because you're old. Elon Musk is old. Well, he's a big AI transhuman cyborg. Even though Elon Musk has apparently never taken a DNA test, because he says he doesn't know if his genetics, if he's this or that. But the I mean, but the when you could say, well, whatever. You're just mad because the rich person has the surrogate baby with the IVF, and you had to you know you had to have your children. Your wife had to give birth to those and carry. But you know what? Like, my kids are like naturally made by humans. Like I made my kid by like having sex with my wife, and so we do, it's in a beautiful act of creation in itself. And then, it's like my wife is carrying the child to turn, so it's already like we care for we care for this kid. So there's a connection to it. There's all these things that maybe other people don't understand. Maybe a science guy can't understand because science can only explain so much. Science can't even explain what a lot of organs really do, and they get confused about nutrition. But Elon Musk thinks that you can take someone's brain and put it in like another head or something. Even though, like, I don't buy it. You can't really figure out what the spark is with the brain. I mean, so there's something more to. There are things that we haven't figured out that we've kind of outpaced ourselves with. And our understanding. There are things that make us arrogant, where we don't really understand all. So the surrogate, the baby that came from the surrogate, they already figured their parents, don't really care about them. Didn't even give birth to them. They had a slave do it. They just exploited. They exploited like a poor person to have the baby for them. It's the same thing. It's not the same. That's a lot like the AI. It's bogus. It's soulless. It's disenchanting. It's dehumanizing. It's anti-human. You say it's transhuman. It's anti-human. It's dehumanizing. It's brutalizing our race. The stuff. All these things, yeah, it's AI art, no, but certainly like all this fake, stupid crap. If you can't figure out how all this stuff works, just like I don't know. To me, I don't think I've been tricked once as far as AI. I think I can look at something immediately tell it's AI. Versus you say, well, that's because you've already seen how that probably is correct. Is because I've already seen so much that like I just know because I've been looking at like art my whole life because I've been so I should know a little bit better. I think AI will get to a point where it will confuse me. I think that's probably coming up soon, where you won't be able to tell if someone made it. But I don't think that makes it just as good because the creative decisions aren't there. Because I really only care about stuff that like I'm gonna write it off personally, like to a certain degree. You might find some use for the stuff to work into art that I do care about, where like there is, but other stuff I don't. And I mean people who are heavily incorporating this stuff. I don't know, like the Beatles are making like an AI song because two of them are dead, so it's Ringo and Paul McCartney are still alive, but they have like an unfinished song, and so they're gonna make have the AI finish the song. I think that says a lot about them. Why couldn't they have just finished the song? That they're gonna have AI do it, or like try to figure out how John Lennon would have done it, or George Harrison would have done it. I think it says a lot about them, and it says a lot about that kind of music. I'm not a fan of them, but I did think that they were more people who like did all their own stuff. Because if you a lot of the music back then, they would just use session musicians and stuff. So a lot of that stuff is totally fake too. And I'm completely against that stuff too. Like there's a documentary called The Wrecking Crew. or I just seen this not too long ago, and it was like hyping up these like session musicians, and it's saying like, hey, all this pop music that you might have heard, like tons of these songs from like the '60s and the '70s and stuff, all these hit songs, you know, the musicianship wasn't the musicians on these tracks. A lot of it was not the bands that would play it or the pop groups and stuff. These different bands, you know, some of that people already knew, like the Monkees and stuff like that, and like Milli Vanilli, but like also like just tons of this other stuff. Actually, you know, they say it's actually made by like very few people. It was in a way it was made by like one band. They're calling it like, this is like the Wrecking Crew, which are like the studio musicians who can just crank stuff out for like the record company, and they'll make it a little bit better than the band. That makes it so fake, and just you figure out how centralized and manufactured this stuff is. You know, I mean, it's a lot of the like none of the stuff I really like listen to. I mean, there are bands from those eras that I listen to that don't use session musicians because I would follow their careers. But there's tons of these other stuff, like other hit songs that and you're like, oh, that was all played by like the same like people. Like it's like completely centralized, and then but they're making it look like it's this band or that band. You know, stuff like that maybe can you know, if you're really into that, you'll probably be really into the AI stuff or something, because it won't make that much of a difference to you. You know. You know, but certainly the approach. I mean, definitely anyone who would do that in the past, yeah, you'd probably do like AI now. You probably wouldn't have like the guy that plays the Telecaster, the girl that plays the P bass. You know, you'd have the AI that plays the telly. You'd have the, you know, you just have AI crank out the trucks. Just like producers are mostly, most music now that you hear is just made on a computer. You know, it's made on a laptop or just some computer. It's not made on almost any pop music is going to be like that. The instrumentation is like digital MIDI controllers and stuff like that. You know. I'm not completely against that. Like I have MIDI controllers and stuff. But I just prefer um, real instruments. But definitely like AI stuff. Like I said, I've been experimenting with it, but for this video, I'm gonna just provide examples and stuff, but I'm not incorporating AI into my personal brand, like ever. Like I don't see the point in like embracing this technology or something. I figure you just be different by not embracing something. It's fine. You know, there's however many old technologies I don't think we've really got the full potential out of already. So why why move on? Like I still think oil paintings are cool. I still think acrylic is cool. I still, you know, I don't I just I don't know. I just assume keep things human, and I like things in my control. Like I don't like you put out an image and then the computer rolls with it, and then I tell it to do this or that, and it won't even do it. You know, if it were like that, if you could actually give like a super detailed prompt where you're just dialing in like the exact like everything that you want in this image, if you could just dial all that in, I might concede that it is art, you know. To an extent, I mean, I'd say the person who types in the 2-word response, like, and I'd say the most dope things that I cranked out were like the 2-word prompts, and then it would get, you know, it's just like, because it really runs with it. But I mean, you didn't make art, you know, you didn't. Oh, look what I made! Look at you know. You might be proud of yourself, but it's a computer. The computer cranked it. You just went to the computer generator thing, and then it cranks out the thing. And it's totally, the creative decisions aren't in your hands, and you can't even like dial it in like you could if if you had someone working for you, like there are artists who will have people under them who are actually producing some of the art, and I'd imagine, and I mean, it is considered like they did it. They get the copyright. The people who, but not so much their employees who are doing this for them. That they're just doing what they're told. But that person can say every little thing they want, and they can change things as they go. They could do all this stuff, and they can really dial in their art. Maybe they're using another person's hands to do it. Maybe it's a collaborative thing or something. But they can dial it in however much they want. They can make all the creative decisions, and where they don't make creative decisions, nothing. There is nothing. And maybe that's what they want. But I don't know. I would just say that this stuff is not art. It is a threat to art, in my opinion, because it's just because we all live in the same world. Like we have to deal with the same. So and you can't control all the It's better if there's. It would be better if we had in some ways I like the decentralizing things, and I've embraced a lot of that as far as digital. I mean, I'm recording digitally right now, and it's very simple. It's easier than you could ever do this sort of thing, and this stuff I think is good and revolutionary in a way. It's good for me. There are also other problems because anyone, other people can do it too. In some ways, I don't really like the democratization of art. I don't like a lot of these things because I think it can be good if, in some ways, maybe if there was a centralized thing that was dedicated to making really good high art, and just everyone had no choice but to deal with it, and it was just this elevating stuff, because people might go for the lowest common denominator, but there'd be nothing else. You say that you're describing a dictatorship of sorts, but I mean, but also Hollywood, kind of ran on that for a while too. They make they could make a quality product that's better than but they wouldn't try. You don't need, because it's they're making all the stuff. They don't need to go so low to where it's just pornographic with everything. I mean, you could argue maybe they do. You could say, yeah, they do. And that's probably true. But to a certain point, you can elevate people a little bit. But if you totally democratize the stuff, there won't be any of that. Because the people who are looking for the lowest common denominator, then they'll just find it. They'll never move on. I think that could just be bad for everybody. Because you'd rather hang out with people who even if they have no taste, even if they're low IQ or something, but maybe they're just forced to watch similar to that, stuff that's good or something, and just put it in their brain. That could be better. They might be elevated a little bit. I mean, I don't think we need to cater to. I know I'm getting a little bit off topic, but I think some of those people are just going to keep rolling with the stuff, and they're going to get conditioned by the very tight parameters that the AI will let them make stuff with, and probably a lot of these people have no real business making this stuff. There are certain people who I think probably do. There are some, like I said, some of the stuff I've seen has been funny. Most of it hasn't been I think I've seen two things that I thought were fairly clever use of AI. I'm not saying it's not a possibility. It definitely is. But in general, I'm just saying I think this is a negative trend, or I'm saying it's a trend that I don't wish to be associated with or something. I'd rather it just be you could take it to the bank that something was made by a human, even if it's all crappy. Because I put in so that it's kind of rough, but it's my own thing. So I mean, I like it. I don't know. if I don't know if I need to. I don't know. I'm not necessarily trying to make my case. You might say that you totally disagree. You think this is the future, and I will be left behind. And so, I mean, in some ways, yeah, that's true. Like, what I'm counting on is a certain niche maybe to be established, or preferably, just an opposite trend to go along with it, which I think would be healthy if, things that are more authentic and sincere and human and intimate than the inhuman, disenchanted, you know, AI stuff, which, like, I'm just, I don't know. It will be a bigger thing. There's no escape. But I'll just say, as it is now, that's where we're at now. And just in case you don't ever, you see people come out with this AI stuff and you've never messed with it. Well, a lot of this stuff is not. They didn't really put much into it. A lot of these people, it's like two word prompts or something. It can come up with quite a lot. And I don't know. He's like, who cares? It's not very impressive, but but it's just gonna make everything kind of crummy, and because everything is kind of cheap. Like people complain about everything being plastic now. And yeah, it is that does kind of suck. It could be like a world like because you don't want to live in like a world like in like Blade Runner where there's no like wood or something. Yeah, but at a certain point you'd be like, well, of course a wood carver would hate like a 3D printer or something. but to me it's a different thing. Like I like things that are made out of wood. I like when I buy guitars, I actually look at like all the wood the wood that's in it. Even though I can't I don't think it necessarily gives it a sound or anything. I just want like a more enchanted object to create with. And I think that does come out. I think that does come out in different ways that are good that you've seen before, and that you'll see the opposite trending in. Anyhow, so but yeah, yeah, I'll just put up probably with this video. I probably put up a lot of stupid stuff going forward. I'll just take however many graphics in this video and just kind of show just some of the stuff I was kind of coming up to mess around with, and you'll see what I'm kind of talking about. But yeah, that's just some thoughts on AI, and to me, the artificial intelligence is still very dumb, and it's just not art at all. Just from right off the bat, because like if art doesn't have the human, art is made by human beings, so where the AI is more like you're having it commissioned by like a robot or something, So if that's interesting in itself, I'm not gonna lie. That's why I like to experiment and do different things, even though I don't really want to incorporate. But yeah, that is some thoughts on AI.